Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where things are still loading in here a bit, but we need to get going on our Duna mission, because we need to clean up these last few contracts here. We've got 4 for that. Are there any others that we could do here? I mean, detect comets. This is probably something that'll just naturally happen. We'll go ahead and accept that one. Duna Ejecta on Ike. I don't think we're going to land on Ike, so I think we'll avoid that one for right now, but we do have 4 contracts to go to the surface of Duna, and we need to specifically land in the Highlands, Eastern Canyon, or Craters biomes. Okay, because we need a Duna stone. So we'll leave that facility, and we'll head into the VAB. And how do we want to do this lander? I think we're going to design one from scratch, and we're going to want to have this be like a 3-crew re-entry module. I think we're going to want to repack our parachutes, so let's use a couple of drogue chutes, like one here and one here, and then a couple of main chutes, one here and one here. Those will be repacked, and we're going to be bringing who along on this? Oh, right, we still have Kerbals out on the vehicle for lashing in the tanks. There's one more tank that needs to be lashed in. So let's actually call this the Duna Lander. That's not how you type. The Duna Lander, and we'll save that and we'll leave. Okay, so we need to hire ourselves a new engineer, because we do need an engineer for this, guaranteed. In the admin building, not the admin building, in the astronaut building, the astronaut complex, we'll hire Hilkin here. I don't really care about the stats, it's fine. That'll be okay, and we'll hop into the VAB. All we want that Kerbal for is to repack these parachutes. We can also put something up on top here. I mean, an experiment storage unit would not be the worst thing to have. So we could put an experiment storage unit. Honestly, those plus a Mark 16 parachute would probably be enough to land on Duna, right? I think. Certainly if we can propulsively land as well, that would certainly do the trick. So we would put in an experiment storage unit that would go right here, and then we would also want to put in a Mark 16 parachute on top of that, right? So like this. We could even move these parachutes to be attached here. That'll be a little cleaner, I think. Oh, these are not in symmetry mode. Okay, so a little cleaner, kind of like so. This should be way more than sufficient to bring this thing in. So at this point, let's put in a battery bank here. There we go. 1K should be enough. Some photovoltaic panels as well, just to keep that charged up, like so. And from there, do we want another reaction wheel? Honestly, a reaction wheel might not be the worst idea here. We put in a reaction wheel there, and then we're going to want some cargo. So, I mean, one of these guys, like that. And then we would want to have our deployable science there. So we would want to bring in a passive seismometer. We're not really going to get much out of that. We would want an ionographer. We would want a weather analyzer. We would want an experiment control station, a communitron, and let's see here. We've got one of these. Check, 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 check. We don't have an RTG. That's fine. We don't have one of these. The weather analyzer is in there, and the experiment control station, yes. So how much power does this need overall? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That requires 5 power? That's it? That's super easy. Huh. Even with a level 1 Kerbal, which is what Hilkin will be, that'll be fine. So we're going to have Valentina. Actually, Valentina's a little bit lower on skill than Jeb. We're going to have Valentina pilot this thing. We're going to bring Hilkin in, and now we're going to need power for this. So we're going to have our photovoltaic panels, and we're going to bring 4 of those. That should be all we need there. Okay. So then we're going to want to bring a payload bay. So a 1.25 meter service bay. We're also going to want like a science junior for this, because we might as well grab the science that we can while we're there. That's a hitchhiker storage container. Okay. We're going to grab a Science Junior and bring this guy in. Okay. And inside of that, actually, let's swap these around. Something like that. Okay. So with that there, then we would have a Mystery Goo containment unit. We only need one. We would have our thermometer. We would have our spectrovariometer, which I'll put on the top. That's a big boy. No doubt about it. There we go. And we don't need a scanning arm. A seismic accelerometer is not going to get us much data at all. Let's see. A negative gravioli detector, yes. A magnetometer, that's, again, not going to get us a lot of data, but we'll bring it. Okay, we've got... Do we have a barometer in here? I believe we do not. So put a barometer in. And what else do we need? A Radial Science Junior, no. A surface scanning module, no. Okay, we'll call that good on science experiments. And then we're going to put in a decoupler. Actually, we're going to put in a heat shield here. So a 1.25 meter heat shield, like that. Then we're going to put in a decoupler. So we need a TD12 decoupler. And then we're going to put in our engine here. All of the fuel for this lander will be inside tanks. So we're going to put in our engine here. That will be simply... We're going to have to make sure that this is going to work on the surface of Duna here. But I believe we're going to be able to lift off maybe with a Terrier. We'll see. We may have to upgrade this engine. So from here, we definitely want to get some decouplers. And I want to have this be quad coupled about like so. These are going to be strap-on tanks. So we're going to have these be like, I would like to have these ideally be like T800s. So T800s would go in like here and would be moved up like that. Now, what do we suppose the odds are that this thing can lift off from Duna? I think the odds of that are fairly low, and I don't really like the way this is spaced out. We're going to need to change where these are placed on here, like that. There we go. Move them up a bit. And then we would also want to put detachable heat shields on the bottom of this. So 1.25 meter heat shields, like that. Cool. And then we would want decouplers up top here, TD12s. And then we would put in aerodynamic nose cones on top, like that. I would want to strut this together to be a little bit more secure. We should really only need the one strut, like that. Okay, and then we're of course going to need a fuel line. That fuel line will come in from here, directly over into the tank, or rather into the engine, like that. So, this thrust to weight, as it sits, on the surface of Duna, is 0.78. So this engine needs a small upgrade. Okay. That said, we will burn some of this fuel while landing, likely. We will also need landing struts on this. That is something that we should have. So we will definitely put in some landing struts. About like this. Cool. Is this still awkward? I don't think it's super awkward. Okay, so it would be something kind of like that. We're going to need to upgrade this engine. I think that's very, very clear. We could upgrade this into being a swivel. It's currently a Terrier. What is the thrust, or not the thrust to weight, the specific impulse on this at sea level? 85 at sea level. Now, we don't actually need the full-on at sea level specific impulse. Actually, what we really need is the thrust. The thrust at sea level for this guy is 167.969. For this guy, it's a lot lower. It's only 14. So we only need like 30 thrust at sea level. What if we were to use radial engines, like Twitches? The specific impulse at sea... It doesn't have much change between sea level and vacuum. So the Terrier is better at sea level, for sure. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't mind upgrading this Terrier a little bit. A Pug would, of course, be worse. I would still prefer to have a vacuum-optimized engine. We could go for a Poodle. That feels like massive overkill. As another option, we could ditch this Terrier. Ditch these heat shields. And go instead for 4 Pugs. Like this. And then this would be what we would come in with. We also would not need the external fuel duct if we did it that way. This does have a thrust to weight of over 1. So this would be a viable option, actually. That works. Okay, so at this point I want a fuel adapter. So we would have it be like 1.25 to 2.5 meter. Something kind of like that. And then we would use one of these guys, ideally. Okay, and then that would be like a Poodle. And that, the intention would be to get us to Duna. So this would be like in orbit of Kerbal. And thrust to weight would be 0.52. And we would have about 1,800 meters per second there. Okay. As long as we get this into a decent orbit, that's enough to get us to Duna. And probably to get us into a descent trajectory. So that would be fine. Then we would use a TD-25 decoupler. One of these bad boys. Let's move this guy up a bit. We're going to need a little bit more space. And then we would have a bunch of Rockamaxes, Jumbo 64s. We'll make them nice and orange, because that's perfect. And then we would try to lift this with a mainsail. That is our primary workhorse there. That's 1.10 meters per second, or rather, not meters per second. I don't want to be looking at this service bay. Can we not? Thanks. Okay, so that's not enough in terms of thrust to weight ratio. So we're definitely going to need to strap on some side boosters. That is deeply unsurprising. And the way that we would do that is, of course, by going into coupling, radial decouplers. I would like to do 4. I want to very heavy lift this thing. What if we did 4 Clydesdales? I feel like that's overkill. Let's see by how much. 1.71. It's slightly overkill. We could thrust limit them, though. I really feel like Clydesdales are overkill. Let's ditch the Clydesdales, and we'll look at Polluxes. That's much more like it, isn't it? 1.41. Yes. Okay. So we would bring them in about like this. Maybe slightly lower. About like that. Cool. And then they would, of course, need an aerodynamic nose cone. I believe they use this one. Yep. Cool. We would strut those together. About like so. And then the question is, what if we did 6 instead? Because I want this thing to get fully off the ground with the side boosters. Now, we could liquid fuel that and have it go that way. But with 6, we have 1.61 thrust to weight, which is a good amount. So overall, I think this works. So our overall delta V is about 10k once we're in orbit of Kerbal. If we're not in orbit of Kerbal, it's about, or if we're at sea level, it's about 6k, but that's fine. Yeah, overall, I think this is more than enough to get us to Duna and back. In theory. Should do the trick. If it doesn't, we can always do a rescue mission, but it should be fine. Okay, let's make sure our staging is good to go. When those break off, we want to fire the mainsail, definitely. We can combine all of those stages together. We do not want those nose cones to go at the same time as this. So the nose cones we will probably manually fire soon enough. Okay, that should never be fired. We want to get those drogue chutes split out into their own category there. Okay. Cool. So we may have some parts like the photovoltaic panels. Actually, these are not retractable. We're going to need to redo the photovoltaic panels. That's going to be a problem for us. So we're going to go for retractable photovoltaic panels that, actually, I think you can repack them with an engineer, but we're just going to go with like these 1x6s. We don't need much power. We just need a trickle of it. So something that we can extend and then retract for landing. That'll be fine. We're very likely going to lose our magnetometer as well. That's okay. And we have Jeb to pilot, so we shouldn't be too worried about communications. We could toss on a Communitron. That's likely to burn off on re-entry, so I think we're not going to be too concerned about that. Now, we don't really have a simple way to get down to our science area. That's a bit of a problem. I can never remember which of these is the hatch. I think it's this one. Let's actually put this thing out on the pad and figure out which one of these is the hatch so we can put in ladders for easily resetting our science. That will be very useful as well. So we'll put it all out on the pad as like a bit of a dress rehearsal. And let's see what we've got here. We don't have a gravity scan here? Apparently we don't have a gravity scan here. Okay, so we'll just have Hadgard EVA. And yes, I was correct. It was this one. Okay, so we are going to, at this point, we can just recover this. So we're going to go back to the Space Center. Oh yeah, we can't save right now. We're going to hop in, and now we're going to go back to the Space Center. We're going to recover that in order to get the, like, 9 science. Not that it matters in any real way, but it's okay. We'll do it this way. We need to get those ladders on, and the ladders shouldn't be a big deal. We'll have to change what side our solar panels are on. That's fine. We'll go ahead and recover this. Cool. And back into the VAB we go. Dress rehearsal is over, and now we know where the ladder goes. So we'll fix that small problem. These guys need to be flipped to the opposite side. Like, no, I don't want it to be at 4x symmetry. I want it to be at 2x. There we go. Okay, I want these guys to be over here. And then we're going to need to go to utility. And I want to have an extendable ladder. We only need 1x of these. And I want this to go like here. And that goes down to there. And then we're going to have another one that goes right here. And that's not actually attached to anything, is it? It is not. We're going to put that right here. And that will just go down to the ground. Cool. Now, as far as this area goes, we may need to put in something kind of like this. Okay. Let's do a ladder test. And we'll see how that transition goes. That's usually the awkward part for ladders, is that transition between the segments. So we'll see how that goes. If this ladder test is successful, then we should be okay. Our aerodynamics are probably not too bad. Probably. Okay, so we're going to have Hadgard EVA again. And down we go. Right. The magnetometer is right here. That's going to have to move. So we're going to revert that back to vehicle assembly. Can't believe I missed the magnetometer. I just didn't see it there. But that's why we test these things. So we're going to move the magnetometer to be over on this side. Thank you very much. And in fact, we'll just attach it to like the Science Junior. There, that'll be fine. Okay, we'll put this back on the pad and we'll do one more test here of the ladder system. I think we'll be okay on aerodynamics. I don't really expect too much for problems with that as long as we're careful with our ascent trajectory. Should be fine. I hope. Okay, come on, KSP. You can do it. Okay, we're going to have Hadgard hop back out. And Hagguard climbs on down. We don't have the EVA report and surface sample from here. That feels wrong, but okay. No problem, down. Small problem, up. We can't get back to the hatch from here. Okay, so we're going to revert that back. I'm not hugely shocked by that one. And we are going to change this. I was hopeful that this would work, but it's pretty unlikely. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that, and we are going to go to our utility, and we're going to use these mobility enhancers instead. So we're going to do something kind of like that, and hope that that works a little bit better. It's definitely much better in terms of the setup there. So let's see how Hagguard navigates that. We know that the sections between the two extendable ladders are acceptable. And to be clear, in space, we're fine to just use the EVA pack. But I don't... Can you fly with the EVA pack on Duna? I actually don't know that off the top of my head. That might be something that is worth figuring out. Okay, so it's a bit of a bumpy transition down. But it seems to be repeatable. Okay. Sure. So, we're going to let go here, and we're going to plummet all the way. If we plummet to the ground, we will die, won't we? I mean, we'll revert it if we do. This is a simulation. I want to get Hagguard. Actually, can we deploy the chute? Do some base diving? Well, Hagguard bounced. He's fine. He's in the middle of the rocket engines, but he's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place him, and we're going to revert this. I'm going to place him on the surface of Duna because I can't actually remember if we can fly on Duna or not with the EVA pack. So we're going to set the position on Duna, and I don't care where the actual position is. Suggested minimum altitude of 5.56. Yeah, that's fine. We'll override the safety check. Okay. Oh, this is fine. We can EVA pack all we want. So I'm not even too concerned about it. Okay, so we'll revert that back. And honestly, I think we're ready to launch this thing. So let's get this ready to go. Our Duna mission will be underway very shortly. Okay. Throttle up. SAS on. And let's hope we don't have massive aerodynamic issues. That is, at this point, well, we also need to retract our ladders. Well, we don't have to, but we probably should retract our ladders. That's one, and apparently this one didn't go. There we go. The major issue that I'm foreseeing at this point is the potential of aerodynamics. That would happen after our SRBs detach, is my current thinking. But it shouldn't be too big of a problem as long as we're not too far off of the prograde marker. So we'll pull the prograde marker over a bit here, and we'll just make our way up into orbit. Cool. So how are we doing right now on our apoapsis? It's looking reasonable. Okay, let's just lock to prograde from here. And once these detach, we're going to need to get a lot of separation. But we're not burning any of our liquid fuel at this point. We've got 30 more seconds of burn here, so this is going to be our primary boost through the atmosphere here with our SRBs. No problem whatsoever. 15 more seconds of burn in the SRBs, and we are cruising at this point. Our apoapsis is plenty high. We need more horizontal speed. But we're punching through the atmosphere, and that's good. 2, 1, 0. Okay, let's get our separation done. There we go. And at this point, I would really like to be at the horizon. I don't know how comfortable I am with tipping it over at this point. Let's see how it goes. We needed a lot more horizontal speed there. We had a lot of vertical. Actually, this is fine. No aerodynamic issues whatsoever. Beautiful. I mean, at this point, the atmosphere is very, very thin, so that's not a huge shock. As long as this stage gets us into orbit, I think we're good. And it's looking like it likely will. Our horizontal speed is already over 1 kilometer per second, so I think we're fine. We can see our apoapsis height is pushing up. That's fine. 150. I'm reasonably comfortable with this right now. I'm going to push to like 175, I think. That's okay. 170. 175. Okay, so we'll cut the engine there. And at this point, that was a lot of vertical speed, no doubt about it. I would have liked to have a lot more horizontal. But let's bring these guys on in. Circularize this for our transfer over to a gravity assist from the moon, as we have been. And let's see how this turns. I don't expect it to be super fast, but actually it's somewhat reasonable. So a significant part of our Mooner transfer is actually going to be this stage as well, looks like. That's great. I'm going to physics warp here as we finish up our turn. There we go. And we will time warp a bit. And we will begin our burn here in about 10 seconds. Now. Cool. Off we go. We should probably extend our solar panels. There we go. Fantastic. And we just want to enter orbit here. It's a very high orbit, no doubt about it, but I was definitely interested in getting through that atmosphere quickly. I mean, I didn't really intend necessarily to have it be as much verticality as it was, but here we are. Okay. This is close enough, in all honesty. We don't need to get it perfectly circular. So next up, we will head off to the moon. And somewhere around this descending node is probably about the correct time to do this. Pretty close, actually. Now that's a gravity assist. Well, not quite. That's not an escape. Now that's not an escape either. Do we need a little bit more delta V in that? Oh, that's an escape. Cool. I thought it was just a matter of timing. Yeah, that looks good. So we will align for that maneuver node. And as you can see, most of the Mooner transfer is going to be in this first stage. So this is absolutely great. We're doing fine as far as our... Oh, and we should eject these guys. So I'm just going to move this down to about here. We don't need to carry this weight anymore. Off they go. Beautiful. And let's warp. Cool. So that's a bunch of weight that we did not need to carry once we were through the atmosphere. I mean, it's not that much weight, but it was a little bit of weight. And we are going to warp forward a little bit further. Our Mooner transfer will be momentarily. 3, 2, 1, and burn. Hello, Moon. So this stage will burn off in its entirety, but that's great. We already got everything that we needed out of it, plus some. So it overperformed. That's always a good thing to have. Okay. Stage sep will be momentarily. And off we go. Okay. Few more seconds in this burn. 200 meters per second to go. 100. 50. 20. Probably good enough. How's that looking? We need a little bit more prograde, it looks like. Not a ton, but a little bit. Let's get turned around. There we go. And that'll do the trick. Beautiful. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to perform our Duna mission. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, Sigma162, JJ Gamer, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. I'm just grabbing that gravity scan right now. I do see that was available. So we'll grab the gravity scan and store that in the experiment storage unit. Perfect.